Do vapers eat their young? It may be an old cliche to describe when a community turns on itself, cannibalizing its own members at the expense of shared goals, but it seems appropriate to describe what's happening today in the vaping advocacy movement. As the reality of harsh new regulations sink in, a wave of acrimony and infighting has swept across the movement to both Canada and the US. What dangers does this pose? And is it exclusive to vaping advocacy, or is it endemic to all activist movements? Over the past month, Regwatch put these questions to advocates, stakeholders, and some of the most well-known names in vaping media.
A lot of people right now are really riled up. The aggression levels are off the scale. And instead of focusing on the actual opponent's enemy and the things at hand, they go for the easy target, which is pretty much ourselves. You see that a lot when chaos breaks out and tensions start brewing, and especially if you throw a lot of fear into the mix. And let's face it, FDA regulations coming down definitely gets a lot of people and a lot of business owners fearful.
Vaping activists eat their young.
Yeah, you know what? There's too much infighting. And people aren't getting along, but really the message has to be clear, and we need to have a unified front, or else we're just going to tear ourselves apart and government's just going to sit back and let us do the work for them.
But why is there so much infighting?
It's a good question. I think we just need some strong characters to kind of step up, make a call for people to just drop it, drop the drama, and get working together again, because we do need the numbers. Right now, we got some of the most powerful people lobbying against us. Pharmaceutical industry, tobacco industry. We can't afford to not be unified against them.
The amount of splintering, the amount of kind of backbiting, the amount of kind of what we call, vapers eating their young. It seems to us that have been covering regulation, well, for me, 25 years, it seems to me that this movement can't really win if people within the advocacy, vapers, and stuff don't come together.
It's very simple. We're a lot stronger together than we are separate, right? If we were one voice, one organized, coordinated voice, we would have a lot more power. Not only here in Canada, but in the United States, in the UK, everywhere. You don't only see this with vapers, but you see it with the advocacy groups too, right? I mean, how many advocacy groups are there out there? And they don't always get along. And that's a big problem.
Things after the FDA came out, a week ago, with the rules, a lot of our viewers that are in the US, we have a lot of viewers down there, were responding back and were very upset with the industry.
With the industry?
With the industry.
Okay.
They feel the industry has let them down. Why aren't you suing yet? How come it took so long? How come you didn't make this happen with the FDA? Why did the ball get dropped by the advocates in the industry, the retailers, the device manufacturers, and the e-juice makers? There's a certain extent saying, what the heck happened?
We have the advocacy meetings at events like this, okay? The problem is at the advocacy meetings, you have 10 to 20 people who show up. But if you're throwing out e-liquid hats and t-shirts, you have 1,000 people that show up, and that's a problem. And I said, what's gonna happen is, you guys are gonna think this advocacy thing is a joke, and then they're going to try to take this away from us, and you're going to stomp your feet on the ground and you're going to say, what do I have to do to fight it? It's not too late, okay? There's going to be litigation, there's going to be lawsuits, there's going to be a lot going on, right? So this is not the end of the world. Hopefully it's not the end of the world. But I think there have been people fighting for advocacy this whole time. They go to the meetings, they go to Washington, they attend the conferences. There are people out there fighting for this industry. So I don't know if all of the industry has let us down, but I think some of the industry certainly has, and some vapers have too.
Well, and about the vapers, do they not need to adjust their expectations in terms of what life will look like after regulation?
So, I think everybody has been kind of sitting around, like fat and happy, and everybody's like enjoying having a great time with this, and nobody realizes how important this is that this stays around. So yeah, I think, with regulation, the industry is going to be regulated. Okay, and what vaping will look like maybe 3 or 4 years from now may not be exactly what it looks like today.
For the United States, a country that suffers from tobacco-related illnesses, not to look at this as a way to protect their citizens and create its own category under the FDA. We want regulations. It's not like we don't want any regulations. We just want fair and reasonable.
Infighting and all the splintering groups and all the vapers eat their young kind of attitude, because does that help or does that hurt?
for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been shooting our foot as an industry. But the truth is, it's a cutthroat business. Look, there's 60, 70 liquid companies inside there. They're all selling strawberry milk or whatever the hottest flavor is. So obviously there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of young people. So yeah, you do have that infighting between the companies. You can't get them to come together because that competition factor is there. My juice is better than your juice. You know, I sell more, you sell more. I try to get into shops. But even from the advocacy groups, need money just like the vendors. So obviously there's a competition there. They want to be like, oh, I'm from Sfada and we led this fight, so follow us so we can get more money. Or we're from CASA, or from the VTA. So just like we have competing liquids, we have competing advocacy groups as well too. The problem always in the United States has been there hasn't been one federal umbrella to come out and say, we're going to lead. Follow our lead. You have to be able to fund that. You have to be able to continue to push money into it to have a positive influence in the United States. You need money.
And the activism that's around vaping is that they eat their young.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time though. Every movement, you know, I've seen this happen repeatedly where you have these palace coups within organizations and the executive director gets thrown out the window for good reasons or bad. It's happened in the AIDS movement, it's happened in disability rights movement. There's no king of vaping, you know, there's no one is the pope of the vaping association. There's no central control. You've got a bunch of people who have an entrepreneurial spirit, who have a passion about what they're doing and an activist outlook. Well, then it becomes like herding cats when you're trying to get people to all pull in the same direction. And you know, inevitably you're going to get some splintering, you're going to get some differences about strategy and tactics and what the priorities ought to be. That's perfectly normal. In fact, I think it's healthy. It shows that you've got a robust movement where when there's that kind of passionate, informed debate about how to go about things.
So, but it's still yet important with with the splintering to get together though, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you can do it. You can do it when people agree on what is critical.
Well, that's it for this edition of Regwatch. Before you head off, please like us on Facebook and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. For RegulatorWatch.com, I'm Brent Stafford.